Also need sign. I mean, we also want people.
Good morning, Quasar Markets Live. Welcome to the morning look at the markets with the man himself, the legend of Wall Street, BigBeat on Wall Street, Stephen Orr. How are you doing today? Looking good, my man.
Thanks, Howard. I'm on Schwab Network a little later today at around 11 o'clock, so I'm looking forward to that. Listen, the markets are wonky. We know that we've said this after the election that it'll be based on tweets and quick hits in the markets and whether or not that the markets like what's being said out there. And nobody likes uncertainty, especially Wall Street. So you're seeing the volatility now, and that's where we're at.
Yeah, volatility, key word of the day, without a doubt. You know, it does look like, as Stephen Flanagan nailed it yesterday at 10 o'clock, look for, this tariff stuff to get talked down later today. And he pointed out to keep it. And I am going straight into here a little bit into the Forex side. He said, keep an eye on that DXY to cool off. It did, back down below 109 here, 108.42. And then you can see, peso up 0.6 of a percentage point, 61 bips there. So we are seeing that original move, and that's without the markets really moving that much today, right? We're looking pretty flat on open here. Bitcoin sitting about 100K, Steve. Bounce back really nicely there. We talked about that yesterday.
Yeah.
Market's looking pretty resilient, I think is the word I would use today.
You know, it's interesting. The Wall Street Journal had an article calling this the world's dumbest trade war ever. And that's pretty strong words coming out of the journal. And when you talk about it from that perspective, we've said it, what does it do for this country? Not much. We've heard two different, I was listening to CNBC this morning, Steve Leisman and Chrystia McFarlane, who's running for the new Prime Minister of Canada, saying that, this trade war isn't working for either side. And, when you look at it that perspective, who won yesterday? Did Canada back down, or did the concessions happen on both sides? And what we understand is that there was just talk, right? And Canada didn't back down. Mexico didn't back down. They're just saying, okay, we'll put troops in the border. They already have them there. What's changed about this in the last 24 hours? And literally nothing. If you ask me if anything's changed, China has gotten into the mix and said, look, I don't care if you cut it back or not. I'm going to go ahead and start throwing tariffs on you anyway. So there could be some unintended consequences for tough talk and no action. And I think that's what you're seeing now.
Yeah, we have seen both sides are going to come to the table. They're going to cool heads should prevail. I don't think he needed to throw this hammer to get him probably to the table, but it did work to get him in quickly.
It did work.
I will say that part. And then my takeaway is earnings are more important right now than even tweet information, right? The one that just blew everybody away last night was Palantir, up about 22% earlier this morning. Right now, up, I don't want to give you false, 24%. They absolutely had a strong earnings beat. They saw a 75% raise in their year-over-year EPS, Steve. That tells it all, right? Their earnings per share. I mean, that's where you want to look, right, if you're an investor?
I mean, I was buying Palantir at around $30 a share. I mentioned it back in March and April of last year that my biggest call for the year is Palantir because, quite frankly, it's all those government contracts. And there's two things about AI that Palantir had nailed it. They were early to the game. They knew what they were doing. And they got contracts with the U.S. government, big ones, especially military contracts. And they were working that really strongly. And they got those. And when you get one contract, you don't get one contract in the government. You get them all. So that's all you need to do is get inside. And once you're inside, you're inside. And they nailed it. And they are implementing their systems into all of it. So you got a big credence to Palantir.
Yeah, you and I were talking before we came on about it, and being two guys that lived in the Beltway for a long time, Palantir has been in the world of computer, cloud, quantum, anything you want to call it that was AI before AI was AI, for 10, 12 years, 15 years, right? They've been a mainstay within there. So not surprising to see that. They have always been just a quiet company. You know, I brought it up. I know you were all over it on Schwab earlier last year. And then, you know, that I followed up with that when they got their inclusions into the S&P and stuff, because of the fact that they are now branching out into the commercial enterprise world where they really weren't. They were really focused almost exclusively on defense contracting.
Yeah.
And then now in a big way, they're providing it. I heard Kathy Wood on CNBC earlier this morning talking about them and why they probably are the most important AI company, and that they provide a platform as a service for all of these AI providers.
They're not the only one, and I think Kathy's probably talking up her book. I will say that there's other companies out there that I really like too. One of them is C3 AI, and I really like C3. They have a platform as well, probably stronger than Palantir's because they're into other things than just what Palantir's into. But you know, when you're looking at AI in general, you want to bring the picks and the shovels, and they got the picks and the shovels. Couple that with IBM, and you've got the big winning team, right? And I don't think anybody can beat the AI teams out there.
Yeah, like I said, we'll see this play out. It's still very early in that game when it comes to it, but Palantir taking off this morning. Another one with a nice little earnings beat here today was also Spotify.
Yeah. You know, I heard, and I use Amazon Music myself because I have Amazon for everything else. That you know, music is becoming the key to it, right? We're seeing less and less of tickets for going to live events because why? They're just too expensive. People aren't going to them as much. Taylor Swift has that covered up. And look, when you say that, you're seeing more music, and so people need to keep on top of that. We're seeing more wearables, more people putting things in their ears, more people are, you know. And so because of that, Spotify and Amazon Music and Tidal are doing very well. But Spotify did one thing very well this time around, and for me, that is the international expansion.
Yeah, you can't argue there. The total premium subscribers is now 265 million, above forecasts there. Analysts had only expected about 8 million new subscribers, and they got 11 million, so that was really good to see. And they also pointed out that they had a lot of reduced costs from their layoffs that they had last year. That gave them some benefits there. So, you know, when I was looking at it, Spotify looking pretty good. The other thing is they're seeing high engagement in their Spotify Wrapped campaign. So their advertising promotions that they're doing, especially podcasts, right? That's a huge spot. I don't use Spotify for, I'm very similar to you. I use Amazon Music. It works for me. It's part of my Prime subscription. Yeah. But I do find that I use Spotify. It has a great selection of podcasts and a great interface to use it. I tend to use it more on that way. So my last takeaway on that was that their revenue, again, things that I want to see, their net income was a 42% increase year over year. So again, we're seeing some really good numbers that justify some of these, stock prices. So I like to see that. On the other side of that, Pepsi a little low here today. Not surprising, right? We've talked about it. Sugary drinks, chips, not really a focus for most of even America anymore. And they definitely had a little bit of a miss there across that.
We're going to again and again and again. I mean, when we're with these Zepbound and Mounjaro and Ozempic, and these are becoming very popular drugs. I called this months and months ago that these chip makers and I say chip makers, potato chip makers,
potato chips, yeah.
drinks, and even myself, I used to drink a Coke a day. Now I drink it once a week. I think I'm drinking one a day. That's my only one I'm drinking this week. That's cutback, right? And they are seeing that now everywhere, not just in the at home products, but actually out in the restaurant business too as well. You're seeing a lot less of those drinks being drank, and quite frankly, it's not just there, but it's also liquor. It's everything, right? Restaurants are hurting again, and we've said this, and here they are, and it's starting to filter down even further, and it's going to get even worse as even more people continue to take these drugs.
Yeah, I will say you started to talk a little bit about the healthcare, pharmaceutical companies. We did also have to go into some earnings there. So it is definitely, those of you just joining us, it's all about earnings today. Really, they're just all over the place. Huge earnings across the board. Another big one, I know a company you've watched over the years, Merck, down about 8.6% here this morning, getting hit pretty hard.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, Merck is a buy down here. Their guidance really bothered me a little bit this morning. I will say this much: I don't like the sell off here. It's a little rough for me to see down 8.5%, 9%. I think Merck is a good quality company. I don't know what their dividend rate is right now, but they've been paying a pretty good dividend for many years. They just need to get back to their basics of fixing problems, right? One of the problems that you've seen in the past with their drugs is that they need to start focusing on drugs that cure bigger problems, right? And they haven't done that. They've been we call novel drugs, meaning that maybe smaller problems in the world. And so that's a problem to Merck as bottom line. Now, I'm glad that they are solving all kinds of problems, but they're not quite there. I think another one you want to put in that category is Pfizer, PFE.
Yeah, we'll go through theirs. I do want to give a few numbers with Merck and talk a little bit about their earnings here for people. Keytruda, their key cancer drug, did have a 21% year-over-year increase, but the problem there is that's their major revenue driver, and that patent expires in 2028.
Correct.
So it raises concerns there. And then their other strong performance was animal health business. Again, we're seeing that. We saw that yesterday with INXX, right? So we're seeing that across it. Their Gardasil scales declined those 17% for a major setback and having problems in China there. And their 2025 guidance was below analyst expectations. So a few things that are leading to that drop here. You just mentioned Pfizer. We can slide right into that. They are up slightly this morning, or were slightly up earlier.
Yeah. I mean, money will be moving from Merck into Pfizer. I mean, those that are in the healthcare business, I think that's definitely.
And you can see Pfizer up about 1.18% here this morning. They did on their revenue takeaways were, again, a good Q4 revenue and earnings beat. They beat expectations. They showed strong cost-cutting efforts with an increased savings target, not spending as much money right now. But they do also have a patent cliff looming in 2026. So they are worried also that could impact $17 to $18 billion in revenue. So a couple of things here that you're seeing that is weighing on some of these drug companies is that some of their big, sort of drivers of revenue are all sort of coming up for, the patents to come off.
Yeah, if you want to look at animal health sciences, I mean, I think the big one for me is Zoetis, ZTS. I mean, for me, that's their big one. That's the biggest company out there, $8.5 billion just in revenue there. But they have vaccines and medicine. So when we look at sick animals, to me, it's not just about your pet dog. It's about, your pet cow.
Cows. Yeah. Livestock is a huge part of that game.
Yeah.
Health of herds, you would, those things are definitely, very big without a doubt there. You and I are both in NVIDIA right now. They are up slightly here, recovering after dipping pretty hard yesterday. Again, I know you're not scared about it. I'm not, but they are sitting down about 116 here. Think any AMD reports later today, that could be what gives us a boost back on the chip sector. We saw that one. TSM reported a week ago, right?
If you're going to talk about NVIDIA, I mean, the biggest concern for me with NVIDIA, not even a concern, I'm happy about it, is the RTX, the new one, the 5090, is sold out everywhere. They even told people, don't even line up to go try to get a card because it's gone.
And what Steve's talking about there is the new Blackwell-based GPU units that are all the rave. Allow you to take the latest in AI chips, put them right into your home desktop.
And I want one so bad I can't stand it. But
I know you did.
Look, let's be honest. I'm not even using Google anymore. It's literally using ChatGPT. It's using OpenAI. It's using Anthropic and all the different AIs out there. I don't even use Google anymore. I literally Google anything anymore. Maybe a map, maybe, but when do maps go to OpenAI? I think it's a matter of time. So
Yeah.
me personally, I don't even care about Google. And when it comes to, I've actually cut back our own company costs with Google because it's not producing the same numbers anymore. It is AI, and unless Google gets into AI, there are going to be problems.
Yeah, without a doubt, that is definitely one there. Steve, we had some others, of course, come across so far today. What else did we not talk about yet? Palantir, we did. Tesla came out here, rebound slightly here, talked about their delayed Model Y and the supply chain, and that 15% of the supply chain is in Mexico. Do you think that President Trump will carve out some exemptions here for his buddy Elon?
President Trump will be carving out exemptions for all of his Republican buddies, for Elon, even people that supported him, and he will be using it as a wield of power, and it will be a very strong one too. So, if he felt like he has been wronged by a company or country, he will wield that pen pretty strongly. And right or wrong, he is the president of the United States. He has executive order power now. And he will be using that power. So I would be very careful of any countries that really cross him right now.
Yeah, I gotta say, I like Tesla here. It's sort of where it double bottomed out earlier.
Well, with losing contracts from countries, especially the Starlink contracts, I've said this a lot. Starlink is awesome, but Starlink, if you politicize your company, then you expect to be politicized. Expect blowback every 4 years, or in this case, 2 years. Most people don't.
We'll see how that plays out, though, because I've noticed a lot of blowback in Canada already versus
Yes.
Not just Trudeau, but also to Ford, who is I don't know what they call them up there, the PMs, I guess, of Ontario, right? Who, brought it up that, there's other options, and people quite frankly pointed out there really isn't another option. HughesNet or ViaNet, if you've used either one, are horrendous products. They don't give you, it's like going back to dial-up, those days, whereas Starlink, as we've seen from F-16 fighters videoing another F-16 fighter going at Mach 1, is a pretty amazing technology. So We'll see how that plays out. I do think that it was interesting to watch yesterday, social media sort of play out around the Trump tariffs, both with Mexico and Canada. I did enjoy watching that, I have to say. Tech stocks. Oh, I wanted to get into SMCI, Steve. They actually had some good news. They announced that they are going to give that quarterly report on February 11th that they need to do to be compliant and to stay listed. So up about 6.4% here earlier this morning on that news. Happy to see it again. I don't want to see companies just disappear. And after Heidenberg's report, they had just been in the toilet since.
Right. Yeah, it is what it is.
Yep. Can't argue with that. PayPal got hit pretty hard here, Steve, too, today, after their less than stellar earnings. My key takeaway there is, while they're doing well, they don't have the transactions they used to. That's what matters, right? Is how many transactions does a payment processor process? And they are not doing as many as they used to, and that definitely is wearing on their their stock price here today. They are down about 8.13% now, so even down 2% further than when I did this about an hour ago. Their net income was actually down from 1.4 billion to 1.12.
Yep.
While they had an EPS beat, their revenue was only up about 4%. In sort of those tech stock growths that go at huge multiples, that's not good enough, right? They did give decent forward-looking guidance. But their branded checkout growth fell short of buy-side hopes, weighing on the stocks, and their operating margins declined after 4 quarters of expansion. So PayPal,
there's just too many other ways to pay, right? There's the world of that is getting saturated very quickly. I'm not a big fan of PayPal. It's not my preferable way of paying, and so it is what it is. I like the company, I like the idea, but it's not the biggest brand for me. So nope.
Yeah, I think like you said, my takeaway is here in the U.S., that's that is a case where everybody, you have a million options when you're in Africa and some of these other places you don't. PayPal is one of the few that is available in a lot of these countries, but they didn't show a huge lot of stellar growth. That's more what I was looking at, to see how are they doing overseas where there is a need, where there isn't a bank on every corner. And PayPal still has an advantage, and they didn't do much there either. So that definitely did not help them at all. Another one here that was having some problems was Clorox, down about 3% CLX. Not much positivity from their earnings. It sounds like with COVID sort of playing its way through, people aren't sanitizing their homes as much as they were. So they're down here about 3.5% before we get into open. Steve, I know you wanted to talk a little bit about uranium.
We're hearing reports now of a senior U.S. official now says that Trump and Israel's Netanyahu will discuss the second phase of talks on Gaza ceasefire and a hostage deal. The two leaders will also discuss potential for Israel-Saudi normalization deal. Wow.
That would be big. I mean, I hope that is the case, giving them some more security in the Middle East. He is the first foreign leader that is going to the White House. President Trump did make a big deal of inviting him and putting that in there, that he would be the first to come. So he did, that it's definitely, what we have seen is what he did say he would do. Whether or not it's going to be effective or have the results that he wants them to have, he has kept most of his stuff in line that he said he was going to do. He's reached his hand across to the Middle East without a doubt.
That is that would be very big to see Israel and Saudi normalizing a deal there. That would be very, very big, especially for the Middle East. That would be a win-win for everybody. It hasn't happened since the Clinton administration.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, look, man. I think one of the things we need to talk about, we're talking about Mexico and Canada, but Mexico's business confidence hit 51.7 this morning. That's an expansion. Wow, that's huge. I think that they're really trying here. I think if you look at it from that perspective, their business could really go. I mean, the dollar strong against the peso because of the tariff. We'll call it the tariff bump.
Right.
But right now, of course, inflation is very high in Mexico. We know that. But 51.7. That's a first where you have expansion, not contraction. So, yeah.
And the important part of that, as we've talked about, is Mexico is a 10% interest rate currency. So it is attractive to people that are looking to play that currency game and invest in a currency that is getting 10% interest rate. It did do exactly what Stephen Flanagan said it would do yesterday. He had pointed out to look for an explosive move above that 2090 former resistance, bounced right through that. And then he did tell us yesterday on the show, right, if this thing does blow off like he thought it would overnight, watch for a quick reversal to the downside. And you see that quick reversal here. So it does look like the peso is still in play versus the US dollar.
If you think about it from the perspective of tariffs and you want a good play, interesting play here, for me, it's CEMEX, ticker there is CX. It's the cement company of Mexico, and they make a lot of cement there. They've been around since 1900 something. I don't even know, like 1905 or 6 or 7, something like that. And they mix concrete for over 50 countries. So, and one of their biggest trading partners is the United States. 33% of their company goes there. So if you're looking for a small play, you're looking for maybe a longer term play, I do like CX here. And they have been pretty good with their earnings. They've got not much of a dividend yield, but if you're looking for a longer term play and you want something to stick around in your pocket for a little while, and we continue to use cement everywhere we go, CEMEX is not a bad company there.
Yeah, looking at it from the technical side, sort of at the top towards resistance, hasn't been able to get above its 200-day MA since May.
Right.
Tried to break through it here. Maybe this is the news that gets it through there. I'd be looking to play it only on a move through that 632 area. Anything below that still keeps me in a bearish from a technical side here.
I would also say you can look at a company called Cifra down in Mexico, CIFRA. you cannot buy the company there. But they were the largest company down in Mexico. Think of it like the Walmart of Mexico, and then Walmart buys them out down there. They became a subsidiary of Walmart, and I believe it was 1997 when Walmart has bought them out. So there's a large one. The other one, if you want to talk about the massive expansion down there, is Costco, COST. That's the other one that people are spending money in. So if you're seeing business confidence expanding in Mexico, and you're seeing this trade war, and Mexicans are going to stick to Mexico, they're going to spend more money in Mexico. And Costco is one of those companies that they do. They have these huge places in Mexico. There's one right in Puerto Vallarta, I know. There's one in right outside, and it's just packed. It's jam packed, right? So that's the other one right there.
Yeah, just over $1,000 right now. You called that.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, if you want to continue that strand, the other one I think Netflix of Mexico will do very well too. So the expansion of people sitting at home drinking their tequila and they're watching Netflix and chilling. Right now in 2024, I'm looking at it now. Netflix now holds a 25% market share in Mexico for streaming. And of course, that to me is very big. There's not many. Disney, Amazon, and HBO Max are the other ones only competing in Mexico right now. So Netflix has a very strong presence in Mexico. And I can tell you, we're starting to see some of those Spanish movies coming into the United States. So, if we continue to see that, I think Netflix is really strong there.
We do see a little rebound here. The Mag 7, 6 of the 7 to the upside. Apple slightly down at about 16 bips. We do see NVIDIA up slightly. Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Meta, Tesla, Netflix, all moving to the upside in the pre-market so far. Tick is still negative here, about 122. Advanced decline is positive, so we'll see if that holds up here. It's right around 1,000. That could move either way at the open because you tend to see a move above 1,500 one way or the other. VIX moving up a little bit here to 1810. It's actually down over the last 24 hours, but still sort of at an elevated level. And right now we look to be opening up pretty close to neutral on the SPY. QQQ looks to open up slightly up. Bitcoin with its nice rebound back above 100K, now back down around 99.1. So seeing a little bit of a cool off there. Gold trying to run to a new all-time high here right now. It was 28.40, I believe it hit earlier, but right now 28.35.
Money's moving out of gold now into silver. We're at 31.91. I still think that's the one that pushes to 50. I still think we go light sweet crude now. Futures now 70.82 now a barrel. We could blow below the 70 handle. So some of these commodities that had pushed up based on the trade war are now falling apart now. So dollars now 108.38. Could get down below the 107 into the 107 handle somewhere today, or below the 108. If that happens, then you're going to see some of these commodities really fall off the cliff here. But there is a bottom here. Around $70 a barrel with the SPR. We'll see if Trump actually looks at replacing the SPR. He said that he's going to overfill it. What he said, he's going to put more in than they expected, which is good. We spent it during COVID, smart, but we need to refill it. So $31.95 now. It could hit $32 an ounce in silver here fairly quickly.
Nice. Yeah, finally trying to break through that resistance. It hasn't been able to get through. We'll say most of the Chinese companies up nicely today. Baba up about 2%. Baidu up 2.75. JD up about 3.87. And NEO up 1.64. Timu was another leader, PDD up about 2.57. So as you said, China actually sort of struck first, said, hey, you want tariffs? We'll give you tariffs. We were doing that anyways. You guys haven't been nice to us, and we're not going to play nice with you. So they're the only ones that have sort of stood up and said, let's play. Let's dance a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean, we need oil above $75 a barrel. We don't at 70, we're okay. At 68, we're starting to get nervous. At 65, oil companies don't like it too much, right? The margins start to get a little bit tighter. And look, if we have a trade war, oil will continue to slip. So you want to be an exporter of oil, well, there you go. The dollar goes up, but if oil continues to fall, oil's falling faster than the dollar's pushing up. So, there might be a balance here at some point. And that's what I'm saying. I think $70 is where the floor is.
Here we go. We are open. We see advanced decline quickly dropping down, as I said, down now about 190. So a lot of this first moves on stocks that weren't trading overnight was to the downside, only up about 200 here, 198, tick down 165 to start off on. We do see first moves, Dow down about 8 basis points here, SPY down 4. QQQ is positive, slightly up about 7 basis points at 518.46 right now. 518.50.
I'm still long Nvidia. I mean, I'm not changing my mind there. Nothing has changed for me. Their sales are outrageous. They're good, and people selling Nvidia are just being silly. I think it's just 0DTE is great. I love those because they got to cover them anyway. So you're seeing these swings and during the day, but then they end up right around where they were at the end of the day. So to me, it's about staying strong and understanding the markets, and Nvidia still controls the markets. I don't care what anybody says.
Do want to point out, for those of you that follow me on Twitter, where I pointed out a setup for Solana that I was taking. I did also point out I took a quarter profit on that 180 to 218 area. I did move my stop loss to 200 also to lock in profit there, because all it takes is a tweet to move those numbers in a way. But I am still targeting my next take profit at 240 there. So I did make that move yesterday. Same thing, Bitcoin. We did buy earlier at 93. I did sell that off when it broke 100 yesterday, right at about that 100 level. So I am only in my long-term holdings. My short-term holdings on Bitcoin have been closed out yesterday. Closed both of those trades.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see here. Tick is still negative, but pretty neutral here so far. Same thing, advanced decline, not moving much one way or the others.
99.6 on Bitcoin. I think we go back to 100 easily here real quickly.
Palantir holding up pretty well, down a little bit here on the open, but still up 22.39%. I don't think anyone's going to complain about that. Spotify continuing to move up here too, around 7.28% today. Ferrari had some pretty good earnings. It looks like luxury car business in Europe is a little bit better than it is here, Steve.
A little bit of bounce here in MRK. Yeah, I mean, cars are going to hurt the most. I said this yesterday. Now look at the cars are going to hurt. I mean, they need to be part of this trade war, and they are. They're right in the balance of it, and they're going to be in trouble. I'm liking Merck here, under $90 a share here. This is not bad here. I like this. Down 10%, the biggest drop since 2020. If you look at it from the perspective of a weekly chart, you're now below that, way below the numbers now, and it bounces off of that every single time. If you're looking to buy a longer term stock, you want to put something in your portfolio. No, I don't tell anybody what to buy or sell, but anything under $80, $89 a share, man, that is a longer term buy here. Nice. I like that call. And they do pay, I mean, their dividend yield is 3.13%. So you win both ways here. Tick now up 100. Yeah, there you go. Bitcoin back up 100,400. We nailed that immediately, right? So yeah, I do like that. Good job. If you're paying attention at home, and I called it right there, it jumped 1,000 points on right there when I said that. Tick moving up here nicely, 57. We see advanced decline now moving to the green here early, up about 784, 800. So we are starting to see a little bit of a move up here. We see the SPY now gone to the positive. QQQ up 24 basis points here. So good to see that. RUT up about 15 basis points. SPY up Gold just hit an all-time high, 28.40 once again here. There it is.
Nat gas moving down here, Steve, a little bit. We're in the 354 range as winter starts to loosen up a little bit its hold on the U.S.
Keep your eye on 100,600 on Bitcoin because it could hit right on that line. And that's where I think, man, 89, 88.93 now. So I might pick some Merc up here underneath 89. I think that's where I said that I like it here.
Yep.
This was $140 stock just back in, oh gosh, May of last year. So there you go, 88.76, 88.6. I'm going to put an order in for 88.50.
Okay.
And I'm not even got the order in yet. It's already there. I'm in at 88.30 there, Howard, if you want to put that in.
88.30, you got it, sir.
$88.03. Now this is a longer term play for me. So for those of you, this is when I stick in my portfolio and I leave it alone for a while. I like this play here though. I'll probably buy some more at some point, but I do like this play a lot. This is you're getting Merc at a very cheap rate.
Yeah. Looks. This is where it took off from basically this level back in September of 22 and hadn't really looked back. So.
Yeah, 87.60 now, slipping a little bit more. There goes Bitcoin again.
Yeah, volatility definitely in here in that first hour of the day. Without a doubt, we've seen it every day sort of take off this way. $87.76 or so there. It's holding up.
Yeah, Bitcoin struggling at that 105 handle right back down. It's really struggling.
Definitely see some volatility there across the board in crypto right now.
Now below 100,000. Wow, that was a strong sell there.
We'll say most of the alts down pretty significantly here overnight too. We see Ethereum down at 2,800.
I don't like alts.
263. What was that?
I don't like alts. I've said this many times. Stick to Bitcoin, you'll be fine. If you don't, you're just playing a game that's overheated. Ethereum got absolutely destroyed, and again, right? I don't like it. I don't. I think the world is going to Bitcoin. It's going to stay. I'm not a maxi and not one of those says because I do like them, but right now I don't like anything in the alt business. Right now, I think they're going to hurt for a while, and I don't think that you're going to see Bitcoin you're going to see Bitcoin in the sovereign wealth funds. You're going to see Bitcoin in these state funds. You're not going to see Solana and Ethereum in these reserves. You're just not. And because of it, I think that's where we're at. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely have a different view from you there. As you know,
bring it. I love
alts are very ripe for good moves up. Great move yesterday from 180 to 214 here on Solana. You can make a lot of money playing the alts here if you know what you're doing. Lots of them aren't. None of them are meant to be in a sovereign fund anyways, quite honestly, is what I tell you as a blockchain expert. These are meant to be used. They're not meant to be stored. They're used for technology. They're not used for currency. So that
here reports that Trump is expected to sign an EO today on restoring maximum pressure on Iran. That could bring uranium prices up again. So we talked about that, where uranium prices have gone down because uranium, P235 going into refined uranium. They're saying that in Iran that they're only making it for nuclear power, but we know what they're doing with it, right? They're trying to make a nuclear bomb. So there you go again, 100,400. Can it push past those lines of 100,500 on Bitcoin? I don't know yet. 88.41 there, 88.50 for those of you who are paying attention and listening to me. We're already above where I bought Merc here. So
nice little move up there for sure. Tick is Still slightly negative here. I see VIX dropping down below 18 here to 1777. QQQ, though, is up almost half a percentage point here right now, pushing 520.70, highs of the day. So looking pretty good there. As we take a look at the Mag 7, NVIDIA up 1.82%, leading the way. Netflix also 1.96%. But all the Mag 7 today looking positive to start off. Do you think we have enough legs to keep this going all day today, Steve? You know, yesterday was the exact opposite. We saw a lot of sell-off at the start. And then throughout the day, we saw sort of strength move into the market. What are you looking for today?
Yeah, real quickly, Trump's order on Iran is aimed at denying Iran all path to a nuclear weapon. I mean, it's what I just said. I think that's exactly what he's looking at doing. 88.60 now on Merck there. We nailed that one. Wow, very good play there. I might take a buck out of that one. I don't know. We'll see. But to me, that was it. What were you asking, Hondo?
Yesterday's market, we started off weekly and then we moved up nicely throughout the day, asking, since we're seeing a little strength here today, do you think the strength continues through the day on these strong earnings reports that seem to be coming out, you know, throughout the day, or will we see a pullback, sort of the opposite of yesterday?
I think a lot of last week's issues were based on options expiry, right? A lot of options were expiring, and I think that was probably a big face there. So no, I don't think so. I think that we're gonna what I call melting up. I think we're gonna melt up as long as we don't see any toilet tweets. If we don't see those things, then we'll be okay. I don't think that's the case. I think Trump's going to tweet no matter what, and Elon's going to tweet 100 times a day. So we still have to be very vigilant with that. But right now, 88.87 now on Merck. So wow, look at that one.
Nice move there by
Merck. Right off the bottom there. 89.03 right there. Look at that.
Nice. We do see Mag 7 now. 3 of them, Apple, Microsoft, and Meta, moving to the downside. We know Meta was a bigger winner yesterday than some of the others. Bitcoin back above 100,000 here so far. Palantir going up almost 25% here, gotten up to as high as 104.30. Do see ExxonMobil getting a little bit a love today. They came out. They're looking at a play using natural gas to power data centers throughout the U.S. Was an interesting sort of play there that I wasn't looking at. They're entering the power business, building natural gas plants to supply AI data centers, competing with nuclear energy. While nuclear thrives on the demand for carbon-free power, Exxon bets on carbon capture to cut emissions faster than to deploy the nuclear. The Exxon strategies could pay off here over the next couple of years. So we have seen a nice little move up there by them after that news came out. Spotify getting some love now, up 11.13%. So strong earnings, definitely leading people to the upside. Clorox starting to bounce back a little bit here, still down about 4%, was down about
89.33 now. So there's already a buck out of that if you're listening to us this morning.
Nice.
89.50 now.
We do see also Woodward continuing to move up here this morning, 189 after a strong earnings. Same thing, Kyndryl Holdings had good earnings overnight, up about 1.24%. On the other side of that, talking about the downplay in Europe, UBS had less than stellar earnings overnight, down about 6.81% here, Steve. I did have some takeaways here from the UBS report. Where do I have that? Thought I did, UPS. No, maybe I don't. I apologize. I thought I had information here.
I'm really liking this move here, Howard. If you look at light sweet crude here, 71.93 now. It got down to 70.50. I said there's a floor down here, and it popped to 71.77, $72 a barrel. So That's where it was. Silver now breaking 32.04. Everything we've called out today is winning today. This has been a winning day for if you've been trading with us.
Silver finally back above 32 here. Let's see if it can get up to the highs of 35 we saw late last year. It is at a spot where it's seen most of its resistance between 32, 32.05 and 32.20 or so. Hasn't been able to get across that here since it made that move back on October of last year. So let's see if it can break back above it here. This, is that we have enough impotence to get us through that resistance. You can see it's been strong resistance. It knocked it down in late September a couple of times and knocked it back down in mid-December. This is the first time it's made a big move up here in well over a month and a half, almost 2 months. So silver trying to catch a bid here. With that being said, gold just hit an all-time high again, just broke 28.41. So 28.41.
And NVIDIA at 118.50. I mean, up at 1.5%. I'm not nervous about those stocks. I mean, we've done pretty well here. We're killing it this morning.
Bitcoin back above 100K here, I got to say. Nice move up by advanced decline now. We're up almost 900 on the advanced decline. Tick continues to stay in the positive, up about 120. We do see the Dow Jones still slightly down about 6 basis points. SPY slightly up at about 9 basis points, but QQQ up nicely, a 0.5 percentage point. We see the RUT up 12 basis points. RUI, which is even the smaller caps, up about 0.14% here this morning. If we take a look at the Spider Select funds that cover the 11 sectors of the S&P, we do see right now, looks like the big winner is XLE, which is energy, followed by XLK, which is technology. Big laggards on the day look to be XLU, which is utilities, if I'm not mistaken. So utilities down about 1.63% here this morning. Seems to be a little bit of a laggard. When we look at treasury rates, we do see them starting to crinkle back up here, Steve. We see U.S. 10-year back above 4.56 here, and we have crossed 4.8 on the 30-year again. So, rates continues to move up. DXY sort of flat here today, 108.33. Hasn't done a whole bunch here this morning so far. It looks like it wants to. We'll see if it can break below that 108.28 here. Could see it slide down still when it comes to DXY. Could give some more strength to commodities like gold, silver, copper, and Bitcoin. Bitcoin struggling to hold the 100K level here today, but starting to move up slightly.
Keeping my eye here on NVIDIA here. Netflix back above 1,000. There it is again.
Yeah. You mentioned that earlier today for sure. Seeing Constellation Energy getting hit still here harder, 2.68. Steve, does that get to a place at some point where you sort of start to like it?
No.
Okay.
Palantir 106.07 here. Whew.
Do you see JD again? We talked a little bit about the move up by a lot of the Chinese, American depository companies of Chinese entities. JD up about 4.25% here.
That was a serious selling there in Bitcoin. Someone is really dumping at 100,500. $500 moves at a time, man. That's just now back to above about 100,000 now. But what's moving this thing so fast here?
A lot of leverage perpetual futures there. Nice volatility is dragging traders from all around the globe into Bitcoin right now to take advantage and scalp that volatility up or down.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't be short Bitcoin. I even if you're just scalping it, there's just too much goodness going on around Bitcoin right now, and especially this administration. I can't see myself as a trader ever shorting it right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not personally. I do have some hedges out there on my Bitcoin portfolio that I keep in place for situations. But yeah, I don't see it going far down. But again, these people are playing for small, the same way that you look for a 50-cent move on a $1,000 stock. They do this on small levels where, I don't play in that game. I'm not a scalper on either side of
They won't be around long if they continue to do that.
That's right, pretty much. Although, again, most of the OGs have been there since 2006, and they are some of the largest whales when it comes to Bitcoin.
And they can do that if you're a whale, but as a retail trader or an institution, I certainly wouldn't do that. Now, if you've been around the game as long as we have, that's a different situation. Because
I don't play with leverage on it. I mean, by leverage, I'll play with an ETF that's a 2x or something like that. But I don't either. I did for years, and was very successful at it. Just that takes 100% of your focus if you do that. I used to trade, as you know, mostly just 4 or 5 cryptos, and scalp them with leverage all day long. 99,963 though, tougher to get back across there right now. Silver back above 32. Haven't seen that hold very long, so we'll see if that happens. I'm watching to see if Brown Foreman gets any little bounce back here today. They were one of the ones hit pretty hard yesterday on those news of tariffs. They are bouncing back slightly, up about 1 percentage point here so far this morning.
Right back above the 100,000 handle.
Yeah, it's just choppiness around it. That's, when something is about a 3x volatility to QQQ, you're going to see that choppiness. It's same swings we see in NVIDIA and Tesla, right? They can be down 2% pre-market and end up 4% by the end of the day. So, you get nothing. Any of these, high alpha stocks can move tremendously in one day. Netflix up 2% here. NVIDIA at 118.59 right now. JP Morgan up a little bit here. It looks like financials in general up slightly here this morning. Advanced decline, sticking right about 1,000 so far. That seems to be about where we're at here, positive 1,000. Tick slightly negative right now. VIX continuing to slide down a little bit more. QQQ at 5 broke above 521 here, so getting a little bit more love out of QQQ than anything else so far. Tech definitely leading the way.
Right. 118.45 now on NVIDIA. We could see another pop back to the high there, 119-ish. Yeah, it looks like we're moving there now. 118.53 now. So if you held the guns there at NVIDIA, there you go. If you held steady there, NVIDIA could go right back up to 130-ish very quickly.
Yeah, like I said, volatility in the Mag 7, NVIDIA, and we have earnings today from AMD that will come out. We'll see if that gives them some love. We saw them pop up tremendously, right? They had gone the bad news from DeepSeek that had everybody worried, and then TSM had strong earnings the next day, and those strong earnings quickly moved us back up there across it. So should expect to see the same type of move here if AMD has some strong earnings here today.
$118.90. I had a feeling we'd see a pop to 119. There it is.
There it is right there. You nailed it. Tick moving more positive here. We now see advanced decline almost at 1,200. So we are just seeing, like you said, the melt up does seem to be in play here so far. Isn't moving tremendously. The indices up or down.
Tick up 400. So yeah.
Yep, starting to move to the upside here. Let's see if there's any news here on AMD yet. Nothing really. 115 up about 1.19% headed into their earnings, as I mentioned.
119.16. There we are at highs of the day. Nvidia. I had a feeling that was what's going to happen in that pop there. So we nailed. If you were paying attention, 119. I think we hit 120 here today pretty quickly. It's moving.
Screen is locked up a little bit here. Going to reload my trade and view in. Because everything else is working. Sometimes it just needs to be reset.
119.19 now.
Does seem to be the melt up day you were talking about there, Steve. Here we go. Now it's coming back up. 119.20. Yeah, looking pretty good here. Again, Nvidia has not spent any time below its 200-day MA until you go all the way back here. Man, you got to come. The last time it crossed over was back in January of 23. So gotta love Nvidia at this sort of level here for a move back to the upside. And again, we now see Apple move to the upside almost 30 basis points here. Microsoft up 14 basis points. Google getting a nice little run here, Steve.
119.50 now on Nvidia.
Yeah, we continue to see this slide up. Tick continues to be positive here, now above 500. We see 1661 advanced decline. So it does look like we are doing that slow melt up you spoke of earlier. QQQ, though, not doing a slow melt up, doing a nice fast melt up here. Up, nice little run here over the last 15, 20 minutes. Broke back through the 50-day MA and sitting at about 522 here. You know, a break above that 522, you could see a move all the way up to the 530 level on QQQ today. That's what I'd be targeting towards the upside, would be right around that 531 area, 531 to the upside. SPY starting to pick up a little bit of steam, and it had been pretty flat most of the day, but we do have right now that key resistance here right around the 600 level to keep an eye on. Again, if that breaks through 600, I've already targeted here today, 609.32 as a spot you can look to the upside here. So you do have a little bit of upside here showing out of both SPY and QQQ this morning. The Dow continuing to slide slightly here, down about 11 basis points. And it's continued to slide down since the open pretty much. So having a little bit more of
119.73, 74 now on Nvidia. I said we go to 120, 119.77. Should hit this here real quickly. So we nailed this one here if you're paying attention at home.
Looks like your Merck's at about 88.50 here, so coming back down a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a longer term play, and you can pretty much add to that one anytime you get down to about under 88 there. I think we're good though.
And it did break above the 50-day MA there, so it broke its first little spot of resistance. Bitcoin trying to challenge that 100, 500, 100K, 500 you talked about earlier. Seems to be the big sticking point so far. Gold continue to hover right at its all-time high here, just below 28.40, trying to make a move here. I do think if it breaks to that 28.50, you could see a little bit of an explosive move up to 29 here on gold today. Would not surprise me. As you spoke about, WTI did bounce back very nicely from that 70 level you saw earlier, 70.40, right back above 72 here. So if you were listening to Steve this morning, $2 right there in WTI very quickly.
Yeah. And I think, you're looking at silver now, 32.11, continue to power higher here. It's almost $73 on oil. The bottom was in. We nailed it. It is what it is. Yeah. Common sense prevails a lot of times here.
It does sometimes, for sure. Just trying to see if anything else is moving out of the ordinary here that was moving this morning. Does look like SMCI is sort of getting stuck at that 28.60 area, 28.70, trying to move up to a high of the day.
119.86 now on Nvidia. Kaboom! Look at that.
Pepsi has bounced back a little bit this morning from the lows of the day after their earnings report, up to 147 here, regained the 147 handle. So it is seeing a little bit of love here now. We'll say that Kyndryl Holdings, we talked about data processing services, continuing to move to the upside here, up about 3% now here after their earnings. They had earnings yesterday. And it had a nice earnings beat. So they are moving to the upside here, data processing. Spotify sort of dying off at that 606 level here, unable to stay above that. Did get as high as 618 before retracing. So we do see a little bit of a sell-off, not surprising once it got up 12, 13% there for people to take profit. Need to do that for sure. Merck trying to break above 88.75 here. Chips in general having a pretty good day. We do see AMAT down a little bit, which is Applied Materials. TXN, Texas Instruments, down slightly. Intel down slightly. And LRCX, which is Lam Research, all a little bit down here this morning. Marvell also, MRVL. That's when it starts to get interesting to me. Marvell was a sweetheart here earlier in November, October of last year. It really made its move up. As you can see, from that 50 level to 130, it's made its big pullback here down to the $100 level and trying to start to move back up. I do like that on a break of the 50-day MA here, maybe for a play in the chip sector here on Marvell.
Bam! Something just hit on the 10 o'clock hour is now in, so I expect look at that pop and tick up to 700 there. So here we go.
It does seem like those day trader scalpers do seem to exit the market here right at that 10 o'clock hour, and you start to see which direction you're going to move for the rest of the day. As you said, we just keep slowly melting up, although I don't know whether QQQ would say slow melt up. We're now up at almost 0.9 of a percentage point here, 87 bips. Did break above 523 here, so a nice move up. Steve, we do have at 11:30 today, Jeremy Vreeland, who's been on fire lately with Matthew Tuttle from Tuttle Capital. We'll say Tuttle Capital just broke $4 billion in money under management. They are the folks behind a lot of ETFs that you see catching steam. MSTRU, the leveraged on MSTU, MSTX, NVIDIA, a lot of those. They're in at 11:30. Then we do have at 12:30, Dr. Alan Ellman did a interview yesterday. We have his latest episode on covered calls. And then at 1 o'clock, we have Scott Bauer and Prosper Trading back in the house. So busy day in front of us here. BigBeat, any final words of the day? Take us out.
The JOLTS numbers just came in at 7.6 million versus the expected 8.09. I think I just posted it right there. Wow, actual down 0.9% versus minus 0.4%. That's job openings are less and less, so jobs are not as freely out there anymore.
No, without a doubt, we know that. Thank you again, Quasar Markets, for watching us here at Quasar Markets this morning, and we will see you in about an hour and a half. Thank you so much.